Hi guys, and welcome to the first episode of our podcast. And I will like to welcome you into the Luis and Daniel show, which is going to be released irregularly on our YouTube channel called Luis and Daniel. I know it's not easy to find, but here we are. In this podcast, we are going to discuss things about our creative process and maybe about politics, but we're not getting into that. Are we going to get into politics?
Probably if the conversation leads us to talking about politics.
It always leads us talking to
Obviously,
politics.
yeah. You'll find in this episode of Luis and Daniel. Have a good time. Okay, so
I have some talking points which I want this podcast to be about. I'm really interested about your point of view about Instagram, particularly because it's, as all of you know, the app which is rapidly changing throughout 2020 and 2021. It's also the reason why I transitioned into making reels, which are supposed to making your Instagram more visible for the viewers. As far as we know, that Instagram is trying to compete with TikTok, and so we can see the functions reels of Instagram, which is allowing users to watch short videos, basically reposted from TikTok on reels. But as far as I know, the algorithm is pushing these videos forward, and I have always over 1,000 views on them. So my view is, do you think you'll be ever adapting to the Instagram's algorithm?
I like this quote by Matt Diavella that actually you showed me, that you need to be that good that you don't have to no longer care about algorithms. So algorithms are these patterns of how a particular system, whether it be a software or a piece of software, which Instagram, of course, is as an application, work, and how it's the way it shows people different content, basically different content based on what they prefer and based on their preferences, on what they watch, etc. And all these algorithms, they work and they affect pretty much what we watch and how we consume content. And what I noticed is that some ways of creating on social media are obviously more suitable to fit into those algorithms. And there's actually psychology behind this, especially behind short videos, because in this very fast-paced life, people tend more to preferably watch short videos and consume these shorter portions of content. We can see that. Okay. We can see that on Instagram, TikTok, and now also, I guess some time ago, YouTube introduced this feature, YouTube Shorts, which is again focused on showing the viewers short videos that are a couple of seconds long. And I guess that the developers and the people behind the social media, they're fully aware of that. People nowadays are more into this short form of content, and obviously they're trying to do their best to catch as much followers, to catch as much users of their software as possible, and they're doing that by offering them what is a very big chance that they will like, which is short content. That's probably why also Instagram Reels are now becoming much more popular than IGTV, for example, which serves as a platform for creators to put out longer videos on Instagram, which turns out to be not that very effective, since you already had a pretty well-known, very firm base for long-term videos on the internet, YouTube. So they're trying to shift toward this style, and what I think that TikTok got right is exactly this style on consuming content, consuming short videos, that you basically don't have to put any effort in. It just goes when you scroll through your feed, whether it be Instagram or TikTok. And yeah, and in many cases, I think that the audiences are shared between these platforms. So, say a celebrity also might have a base of followers on TikTok, but also on Instagram, and it might be the same people, or it might be some different people that, for example, don't use the second platform that the celebrity uses. So they have to make up for it. That's why I also think that many times people repost content from TikTok on Instagram.
Yeah, well, there's a problem with that Instagram is no longer a photo sharing app. That was told, I think, by CEO of Instagram, but I'm not really sure. And this is where my fear comes from, because as far as I know, and I feel it on my Instagram posts particularly, that I'm not getting enough attention as I used to during probably the start of quarantine. I mean, February 2020 and stuff. And there's this other thing, that Instagram was not really good at promoting content or recommending it. You always had to put some hashtag, and you still have to push the algorithm in a certain way to show your content to certain people, which is so far not very effective. And now that this platform is changing, I have more and more problems with getting audience into my photos. Yes, having lots of friends also helps, but I'm trying to grow naturally. I don't want to find some, tricky troll stuff on the internet, which may, help me get some bots. I don't care about bots. I care about, I'm not as much into video as I'm into photo. You already know that I'm leaning to this photography lifestyle, and making photos is a lot easier for me because it's much more easy to make. And my point is that if this platform will not support me at what I do, I might just stick with the video and um, posting a post on Instagram and making your grid, which is this layout of all the photos to look good, is one thing. So you have to pre-plan how does it look, and it's extremely time consuming. And apart from that, you now have to post IG reels, which you also have to lay out in a certain way and make your audience interested in it. So I'm asking myself, when Instagram is no longer photo sharing app, then what am I even doing there? At this point, every single app which is trying to compete with TikTok should be just a video sharing app. I think I really believe in Instagram that they can somehow embrace their features when it comes to the photo and support photographers. And there are a lot of things which are not really great about Instagram right now. But do you think it will help future creators, young kids which are starting photography just as we are? Or how do you think that person should start an audience from your perspective? I mean, on particular on Instagram.
Well, my relationship with Instagram is that I use primarily Instagram for putting out my work, my photos. But if I had another opportunity to give my photos to other people, like to show them my photography, uh, if it meant to print those photos and sell them to a gallery, let it be so. I wouldn't need to have Instagram. So I just use Instagram as simply a platform where I can directly and very easily share my work. So that's why I don't really care about the algorithms and about that that sort of stuff around social media, because truly for me is just a place where I can put it out, and if someone likes it, they will support it, and if they don't, then they will just move to another post. And I believe that in order to start, you you have to start, which means you have to grab a camera, I don't know, save some money and buy a cheap one and start making photos, and later you can actually post it and see whether people like it or not. And just I don't think it pays off to be discouraged at the beginning if you don't get that much followers. Was we've all been there, and if you truly like it and if it truly brings you joy and you're not doing it for the sake of getting followers, you'll most likely continue doing it. So a great attitude to take is to truly see Instagram as a gallery, as a gallery into which you bring your photos and you just display it. You put them on display, and people will just start walking through those little alleys and the gallery, and they will start just looking at the photos, and they will stop at some photos, and they will probably want to look at those photos in a greater detail, and if they simply don't like them, they will move on to another photo. Just so imagine Instagram as an actual gallery to which you bring your work and show it off, put them on display for other people. So yeah.
But my whole point this time was just, what if you put out a gallery and the gallery looks really great, but since the people out there, I mean people on top of you, are controlling who is going to view your photos and if you're going to have success. That's what the algorithm is all about. I mean, my viewpoint is that your work has to be viewed by some strangers at some point.
Yeah.
And Instagram should somehow directly, not just according to the hashtags, but just by looking at what it is, without hashtags, direct certain people to look at this. For example, as I mentioned earlier, Instagram is not great at recommending things. And we can see that in comparison to TikTok, because you don't have to use hashtags on TikTok. Just somehow the algorithm in this app already recognizes the content and can recommend it. That's one of the reasons why, for example, on iReels, I have so many views for such a small Instagram account. But yeah, I totally agree with you that you should just put your work out there, and it doesn't matter how much views and how much likes it gets because it just thanks to all of this we're talking about, just embraces the fact that it doesn't really matter how many people will see it. It only you won't get a real critique, a real professional criticism on your work by this. The most important thing is to just work on yourself and
Exactly.
put thousands of hours
Exactly.
of work into
Exactly.
your development of yourself, because you can't always count on algorithm, and that is also one of the most important viewpoints which you introduced. So
You should be better than the algorithm. You should be good enough so that you don't have to care about the algorithm. And eventually, if you're truly devoted to your work and to these mm, to the art that you're making, you will in the end get recognized. I mean, you will not be eternally forgotten. You will probably be mm, recognized or brought up to light in other ways. It might not be Instagram, but if you're truly, mm, as you just said, putting many hours and truly investing your own time and getting better, in the end, you will somehow get recognized. Whether someone will just randomly, whether, I don't know, let's say more famous person will just randomly find you, or you will manage to contact a more famous person. I guess that people, at least a fair amount of people that you can call a fan base, will at the end support you, and you will be able to build that community of people if you're truly good enough.
well, there's that thing which Parker Wolbach said from fulltimefilmmaker.com, which is like a film school for many young creators, and it's generally on YouTube recognized as far more valuable learning source than a semester at film school, which I probably believe in because I've seen a lot of their videos and learned a lot. And my point is that there are some amateurs when it comes to filmmaking and photography complaining that they don't have clients yet, and that they don't have enough audience. And Parker Wolbach said a very interesting thing, and that is, how do you expect to have a platform or an audience? How do you expect to have an audience or a clients when you didn't put thousands of hours of work into this? Just make yourself better for working and don't care about the algorithm, because at the end, if you want to work for companies, if you want to work for some sort of private sector or shoot banks, it doesn't matter. You have to be good. And at this point, it really doesn't matter how much likes you get on the photo.
Exactly.
So at this point, for example, I got accepted in film school called EduSo, and there's this thing that my likes didn't get me to the school which I went. It was the photos, it was the art prints, because
Exactly. That's what I mentioned, that you will be recognized potentially in another way, even if you're doing basically the same thing for different platforms, which is in your case photography. So you got recognized in another way. You got accepted into film school, and you got recognized not primarily because of your Instagram as such, but because of your photos, and because people at film school found them good.
So I would like to clear this out. We actually came to the conclusion that the algorithm actually doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter to young filmmakers like us at all, because we are, after all, just catching or trying to search for learning experiences, and we are trying to do more. And this podcast is also an example from it. I never learned about these weird audio stuff at all in my life, and I'm really just impressed by your knowledge about working, for example, in Logic Pro X. Guys, just check out his work. He is a great composer. So yeah, at this point, it also doesn't matter even how much views or how much monthly listeners you get on Spotify from your latest track. It's the hours of work you worked a year on a track and you put it out, and that's the most satisfying feeling. You didn't make made a certain tracks just because you wanted 9 monthly listeners or 20 months. It doesn't matter, just the work you put out there.
Exactly, because in my case, and especially in the case of my first and only released, officially like released track to this day, Etude, I didn't get the feeling of satisfaction from the list, like from the listeners and from the number of people that somehow found it or listened to it. The biggest feeling of satisfaction I got when I actually put it out, the feeling that finally it's done and I could show it to the world. And if it's good, then it will get recognized. People will listen to it and people will support it. People will like it. People will share it with their friends. Well, if it's not that good, that means that I have to work harder. I have to improve the ways I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's really, if you simply, because putting it out is the very first step. Is if you don't put your work out, if you don't show it off to people like, hey, this is my work, take a look, and if you don't like it, just move to another one, and each time you get better and better. And once you present work and someone can just come across and say like, wow, this really impresses me. So yeah, you have to learn how to learn, and then you have to learn how to use that knowledge and translate that into your own work.
Yeah, that there's this thing we learned in this conservative manifesto, or I don't know.
There you go, politics.
Or I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, politics just entered our conversation.
I'm just getting a reference to PragerU. There was this really clever thing said by, I don't know who exactly from, but I remember this specific thought that if you are unsuccessful commercially or something, it doesn't matter. Don't blame your actual results on the platform or in real life on the system, because system doesn't matter. You can't change the system. So hypothetically, if I would get really angry, deleted my Instagram account, I wouldn't win this battle at all. The only thing I can do is to adapt myself or just be better, just continue doing my work as I'm doing right now. And at this point, I think that it matters more to get a feedback from real people. I mean,
then who do you want to get feedback from if it's not real people?
just look at, for example, bots on Instagram.
Yeah, but they don't offer feedback.
It's just really confronting for me. Basically, just I hate the I hate the bots on Instagram. Mainly because there's this another thing which Instagram should fix, apart from focusing only on reels. I don't know if you have mentioned, but you have. I'm sure you have mentioned this. But if you use certain hashtags and you put them below on your post, there will be few bots which will write to certain things like get into my DMs or follow this page, get promoted or something.
Sure.
And that is also really confronting. So the more I use Instagram, the more I realize how imperfect it is. So at this point, I might get into this sort of old-fashioned photography style, and that is only about traveling, shooting, experiencing, and then at the end, only art printing my photos, just putting the art prints on the walls. And that sounds far more satisfying. I get far more satisfaction from printing my photos than from posting it on Instagram, because just by looking how Instagram works, people will just swipe through the post. But when you actually make a print of certain photos of a certain memory and you give it to someone, which is called the gift of photography, that really matters, and it has a very strong sentimental value, which holds on to you even more than a few likes on in Instagram. So yeah, that's also very interesting hypothesis, which I heard mainly from Peter McKinnon, who is really into printing his stuff, but he is also commercially successful, so he doesn't even have to think about all this stuff. But I just keep fantasizing about printing my photos. What do you think about the actual art prints? Do you like printing your photos? I saw that you printed some hexas from CV Photo Labs, which is
the first thing that for quite some time I just didn't find it necessary when I had Instagram and all of these digital platforms. It just seemed to me that it will probably pay off more. It will be just more worth it to just slap it on social media. And I have some small, but I have some followers that regularly check my photos, and they usually like them. So some time ago I just didn't find it necessary or important. But later I learned that actually it's a very different feeling. You look at the photo differently when you have it printed in your hands. You just can really look at the photo as it is printed and not on a screen. And you can also put it on a wall or give it to someone as a gift. And it's a very nice piece of memorabilia. Just like imagine someone finding somewhere old photos of you. Like that feeling might be it truly must be like wow, we truly look at old photos with some sense of awe and respect. And it's like wow feeling. This is so, ladies and gentlemen, after this short advertisement break, we're back in our podcast. Unfortunately, we can't introduce you to any of our sponsors because
you're broke and we are not interesting
commercially. And we're victims. Yeah, we're victims of this disgusting system that completely hates photographers,
we need
filmmakers.
Money from the government. We need money from Instagram because we are victims of the algorithm.
Yeah, and that's why I can't introduce you to our today's sponsor. So we'll just continue.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're victims. We just can't go on like
that's
that.
It.
So I don't know if what we were talking about.
We're talking about
about art prints.
Yeah, the difference between having a photo displayed on social media and having the photo printed actually in your hand. It's just simply a different feeling. You get a completely different experience from looking at the photo. I can properly describe like why is that, but it's simply different, and you can probably feel more connected to the photo since that the photo was printed. That can imply that the photo means something more to the person who printed it.
Exactly. That's the gift of photography. You are giving memory to someone and you enjoy taking it. So I have another few questions prepared. How much did social media cause you anxiety? No, sorry. How much anxiety did social media cause you? Yeah, sorry.
If I'm not counting the hours I wish I would have spent otherwise, talking about Instagram specifically, because Instagram is extremely time consuming. The time you have to invest to prepare a post, to write the description, to smash all the hashtags in, to promote it, it's very time consuming, and sometimes I just feel I didn't get the response that would actually make up for the time that I decided to put in preparing this one photo. So anxiety as such, probably none, because I don't really consider social media to be that extremely important in my life so that they would have to uh, bring me to the point of me being, I don't know, anxious or being like sad and showing that I am, I don't know, maybe disappointed. I can move on. It doesn't matter that much to me, because I know that in the end, somehow, if I continue, if I improve, if I learn, and if I learn how to use the knowledge I learned properly into creating valuable content, and truly working hard, I will somehow get recognized in the end, and my work will be somehow valued in the end, even if it's not right now, for example.
Yeah,
That's my take.
that makes a lot of sense. Well, I am a bit confused.
Social media lately, so
Wait.
In my case, I have this great, how to say this? I'm just thinking about how to put it in a good manners. So I have this feeling that I'm overwhelmed by social media, not only by politics.
Okay.
Politics is not giving me any anxiety. Only when not arguing with someone particularly on the certain platforms, but when it comes to actual organization of my portfolio and about hashtags and all these things you already mentioned, it really comes off confusing and very, very, and just currently at this process when I'm making my grid look good, I'm just giving up mainly because a lot of people say that you have to post daily to succeed. You have to put certain hashtags to succeed. There's always a different hack to get new followers. There's always something new, and I just don't want to keep up.
Exactly.
I have no energy by looking at videos which are telling me how should I post. The only thing I want,
It's to post, I guess.
yeah, just post. I don't want to think about the captions. I'm just extremely tired of making up this pure description behind my post, which look basically the same but different. There's this thing I'm doing, and it's very weird, and I didn't confess with this to anyone, and that is that I'm always going through certain Instagram accounts, mainly through pirate accounts, like, for example, the Spire Live, which is Peter McKinnon's Instagram account, or other pirates, all of this community. And I'm trying to search for their captions and use them as a template for my caption.
Okay.
So it does fit a certain style, and it sounds good. It's not really long because sometimes I have this temptation to override myself on a caption, and I don't want to do that either. But I also recognize myself as a very, very delicate when it comes to these descriptions, and I'm just not happy doing this.
Mhm.
And many times I think that I should stop making Instagram a post for example a month, but then after a month of doing nothing comes realization that I should work on myself, I should do something, and I'm just keeping myself in this weird circle, which is just repeating itself over every month. So um, there's this thing that if you are doing it the first time, when I first started taking Instagram seriously, it was fun. I really had nothing to do because it was a lot of it was something new for me. It was a lot more fun, mainly because I didn't have anything to do. I really was just free during the quarantine. But since the school finally opened, I didn't have much time or energy to do such things.
Mhm.
And there's this thing when you're not active on Instagram, that the followers are starting to drop down, and suddenly I lost 20 followers during my inactivity on Instagram for some time.
Mhm.
And then my demotivation came from, and my demotivation is also coming from this certain thing that Instagram also isn't very successful at leading lots of people to my account. So I basically lost 20 followers and got only like 12 back through daily activity. So that's also very sad. And I'm just thinking that I should just quit and make photos because it really makes me happy. So
It's usually up to you, but I believe that, as I said already a couple of times, it will somehow get recognized. We really can't tell what is ahead of us, like what people will we meet, what people will meet us somehow. So you really can't tell with whom you will keep in touch in the future, and maybe you'll be able truly to expand your fan base. But just do it truly naturally, and just like let it grow naturally. Because otherwise, it's not going to be that genuine, that honest. You know, if you don't let it grow naturally, people finding you out. And yeah, I'm not talking that you should not make yourself some advertisement, but not like force it, push it, and use bots and that kinds of stuff. Because at the end of the day, we want real people to follow us. We want real people to get to our work and see it. We want, because the thing is that I believe that there is a sort of message that I want to convey through my work, and I want this message to reach as many people as possible. That's the ultimate, ultimate goal. And whether it's the, I don't know, the message of the good news and the faith, or it's some sort of other good message that you want to to give to give people, you have to do it in a natural way and not force it, because people will see, and they will notice when if you're forcing it, or if you're just putting it up because you like doing it, because it mm, brings you joy and this feeling of satisfaction.
just as I'm thinking about this, you can also, I will tell you an example of an Instagram account which didn't have to follow any rules and think about algorithm because because this Instagram account is also sharing a message which is pretty clear and people are interested in it. So that also that Instagram account is called Wim Hof, and you and that actually supports your viewpoint because Wim Hof didn't have to follow any algorithm or use hashtags. The only thing he did is that he wrote a book, shared a message, and people naturally came.
Actually, yeah.
So we are all supposed to, rather than follow hashtags, follow our own intuition and our own emotions when it comes to these certain things. Yes, you can follow your emotions in life when it comes to your art, but not when it comes to your actual life decisions. We are going to talk about it for sure in a few minutes because of our conservative manifesto, which are we clearly discussing quite early on, and yes, that's probably where we are going to land. Is the message, is the emotion of your art, is the wisdom you're sharing. That's the important thing when it comes to creating content. It's also always the message, not the algorithm, because
Exactly.
you just we don't have to do that. We don't have to focus. It just we are doing it voluntarily, and that is maybe the scariest robotic things about humans, such as us. Because I mean, it's very scary to think about this, that we are all just contributing to the certain system in certain way just because we want to succeed. Yes, we should adapt, but when it comes to the actual art, we should stay happy just by doing what we are doing. And yes, there are conservative opinions which disagree with me in this point,
Like on which
but I agree with conservatives with this thing, that the art should be beautiful. It should represent the beauty of the world. It should enhance our intellectual curiosity. And
exactly.
this is what the art is about. I'm not talking about the toilets and feces which are just thrown to the art galleries right now. But when it comes to the actual arts which we are doing, and we are contributing to the society and to this platform as well, people will surely find us.
Actually, because I believe that also one of the purposes of art is to enrich other people and give probably new perspectives on life and on
Exactly. Yeah.
different topics. Truly, I don't know, ranging from food to God and that kind of stuff. So it truly has to enrich both individuals and also society. So really, your art has somehow to contribute to making this world a better place. Because just imagine the world without art. You know, it would be just it very much more poor than
Yeah.
it is right now. Because art can uplift us. Art can also make us sad. But what's the most important thing, that people, and I can use films and movies as an example. Why are movies so important in our society as such, and why we need to continue to produce truly good and valuable movies? Because movies teach us values. They represent certain values in these different stories from gazillion different worlds and, you know, universes, multiverses, you know, whether it's, I don't know, Marvel, Star Wars, or an independent movie that you find on YouTube. Movies, movies in general teach people values and are showing them in a way so that the viewer can relate, and that is very important. Humans have some sort of ability to connect to the movie, to connect to the characters, and in many cases to relate with their feelings. And with having these fictional or these movie characters doing certain things, you can truly say that, oh, this completely like me. He's doing this exactly like me, and this completely my behavior. This completely his or her behavior. So movies give us the room and the space to relate, to have the feeling that our uh, our status or our life position, our current situation in life might not be as exceptional as one would think it might be. So yeah.
Yeah, there's this thing I heard from Peter McKinnon. And it also relates to the making films, but I would like to just shortly talk about the identity
Go on.
of the artist. Well, there are many views and many opinions about just what does art mean and what you can categorize as art. Yes, certain films represent our values, but there are a lot of films which are not. For example, you can also see. I saw this weird film on Netflix, which was somehow representing the idea that the radical left is actually
Politics, ladies and gentlemen, politics.
that the radical organizations of a certain ideology left is actually good, and that certain massacre in Chicago was clearly just um, justified by, I don't know, something. I didn't even watch that movie to the end. I liked it for some reason, but I wasn't educated at politics. I'm currently such as I'm currently when recording this stuff, but you can see that certain films are pushing the wrong agendas, and it's really important to, I think, educate children and educate the youth on where do we stand as West politically, because we can clearly make more films which embrace our values. And I mean, we have this sort of freedom of speech, so it's good where certain people express themselves as something else politically. Yeah, that's what we are. That's the democracy. But when some certain ideology is threatening the democracy itself, it shouldn't be cancelled. It shouldn't, but it should be argued and teached about very, very well. Because the only thing why people are leaning to a certain ideology is because they don't know about its past and they don't know how to identify it. That's why we are almost all leaning to some political ideologies which seem very moral to us, but in practice they aren't. And yeah, I just wanted to, I just leaned into politics very, very deeply. You can also contribute to this monologue. I lit it for
Actually, this brings me to the point we've brought earlier on, the topics of algorithms. It really seems that present day filmmakers somehow want to fit into these algorithms, political, let's say, algorithms. I know it's a strange combination of word, but we can see that happening. That there is a certain pattern that obviously, according to political ideologies, has to be followed. And if it's not followed, then you get canceled, and then you're simply bad. You're not being supported because you didn't follow the pattern. And
it's actually this very this is actually greatly complementing to one of my talking points, and I have this question for you, which you already started talking about, and that is, how woke do you think social media is, and how much is it threat to the society if in this reality the governments in America are starting to be private contractors to the wokeness in certain social media. How do you view this? And also, how does this um, make our content, or how does this specific thing happening in the USA can make our whole lives already much worse politically when we want to share certain ideas? For example, I noticed that you want to build your YouTube channel um, on your faith as a Christian. You want to share Christian ideals. You want to talk about your religion. As far as we know, the left isn't very happy with it. The left is calling, for example, all the Christians, all the white straight males, racist and probably predators of society as colonizers, which really isn't true, because we all know that the race doesn't matter, and all these things also doesn't matter. All lives matter, and that is, oh my
That's
god,
it.
I will get killed by saying this. I said all lives matter.
Exactly. You can see he is concerned about not fitting in the algorithm. You can see exactly what we're talking about in practice.
As far as Ben Shapiro is on YouTube channel, I'm fine. So, do you see this as a threat that when the government is starting to becoming a private contractor and paying big corporations like Twitter to block or censor certain content? Do you view this as a dangerous thing?
I mean, to some extent, yeah, because it's a threat for, as also said, for free speech as such. And the thing that might be pretty scary is that the people behind these big corporations, because nowadays most of them can be considered woke because they want to fit in these political algorithms that obviously, according to the left, have to be followed. And yeah, it truly does impose some sort of limitations, or not yet limitations, but threats, to people who want to convey the truth, because free speech covers it all. Under free speech, you can talk the truth, you can also lie, but we have to like discern this. One is good, and one is simply not good. And you can see that more and more people will somehow continue and will choose the latter, the not good option, which is lying and pushing some sort of agenda. And that is really, really bad for the society, even when it's like lies under the veil of free speech, because then what is the point of that, if you're deceiving people, if you're destroying the society, and if you're actually making human lives worse and bringing some to death? I'm especially talking about some probably radical political views that are being pushed through social. Again, right? So directly kill someone, but the ideology and the people, for example, in the past, then were under this ideology killed many people. Like socialism, communism, fascism. You have all of that.
There's this very wonderful thing, which you mentioned the good and evil.
Yeah.
The thing about good. The thing about good and evil is that the only way we as a Western society determined or specified what is evil and what is good is by Bible, is by basically our old Judeo-Christian values, which built this society and put us together as a people, and somehow civilized our behavior. And it civilized our behavior just because the God in Old and in New Testament clearly said what's moral and what's not.
Exactly.
As far as we know, at the left, for example, in this in socialistic Czechoslovakia, for example, or basically the Soviet Union, didn't like the church, didn't like the idea of religion, of having some religious communities in their country, because not only they were educating people in a certain way, which left didn't like, but they were also concerned that they will view a god or the church as something higher than the state. Well,
Exactly.
I know that the church should be separated from the state always, but it doesn't mean that the state should suppress these religious communities.
Well, especially when you mentioned and brought up communism, the Soviet Union. Communism leads the first, let's say, idea of communism as a very the first idea of communism as a atheistic idea leads us back to the very first part, the very first book of the Bible of Genesis, in which the snake, the devil, Satan, seduces even later on Adam, and there's this passage, this verse that says that and you will be like God, you will know what is good and what is right, and this idea, then you will be like God, you will be gods, is very nicely translated into communism, which is trying to solve all of these problems with having the government as the basically covering all of the different authorities, like, I don't know, moral authority, economic authority, educational authority, and replacing this idea of God, a being that transcends materialistic point of views and transcends us as humans, and replacing that with a very rotten and materialistically based organization, such as the government, in the case of, for example, the Soviet Union. We can tell that all of the governments on this planet are bad or evil, or that they are trying to replace God, but
Yeah, so the government can't dictate people how to think or tell them moral values, because that's not what government is for. The government is here for just only for absolute necessities, like, for example, the national defense and the construction of economy. And by that I mean the cap. No.
So, ladies
we
and
are
gentlemen,
back. Yeah.
we're back after another advertisement break, in which we will not introduce you to our sponsors. So we'll just
we are
continue.
victims. You already know the deal. So,
Let's continue.
I was talking about the construction of the economy.
Yeah, the purpose of the government in a society.
Yeah. So, capitalism is just basically based on the idea that people should work for the people. The people are constructing the small or big businesses. It depends on how successful they are, and they are working for each other. That basically means that people are creating goods just for themselves, and the government is not interfering. Yes, the government should take care of certain mathematical preposition, or I don't know how to put it. Yeah, and the government should take care of certain things of how the economy is going. So the things like the deflation or inflation will not happen. But the government doesn't actually stand in the way of the people and their free will. In a communist country, people are forced to work for the government. You have no freelancer or private businesses in a communist country. So basically, if the socialist Czechoslovakia wouldn't wouldn't fall. We would still live in countries surrounded by poverty, not being able to see what's behind the borders, and not being able to build our own businesses and have freedom of markets. And also, we would not be able to work as a freelancers. Our job, the things which are we doing right now, expressing our opinions um, in the public by the podcast in this way, is just the evidence that the freedom of speech exists, and that's why this system works, and that's why I'm proud of my country and for the revolution which happened, and that's exactly why I support young capitalists and young conservatives in our country. It's always because it's always leaning to the freedom. And there's this thing which I heard about or heard from many people, and that is that if the political right wingers would get everything they want, the the country, the exact country which would succeed in right wing politics would be Nazi country, which also is untrue and it's a myth and doesn't make any sense. I think you understand. Because
sure.
because the fascism isn't actually a right wing ideology. It actually it has far from the left in many ways, and that's because the right wing politicians are not authoritarian.
Exactly.
And
That's like the biggest difference between a right-wing politician and a completely extreme, also almost alternative, right?
It's just
politician.
alternative political spectrum which doesn't lean into the conservatism at all.
Absolutely.
And it's also important to teach kids in school on how these certain ideologies were formed, and it's really scary to see things on the internet like calling conservatives fascists, because just to be clear, I don't identify or I don't have any. I just find it really insulting, but I'm not going to cancel anyone for saying it. Yeah, remember that. It's just people aren't really educated about the existence of certain political spectrums.
Exactly.
People should really learn what left is. I had this very interesting talk with one of my family members, and I just wanted him to express his political opinions to me, and I wanted to somehow manage his viewpoint and I identify him as politically, because I just wanted to know for who he's going to vote for in the next election, and
The presidential election in Slovakia, I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and as I asked her things, I was identifying it for that's a right winger view, that's left winger view. I was identifying it along the way in the car, and I was actually stopped by that particular family member, saying that I don't care about right and left. I don't care what's political about this political spectrum. That doesn't mean anything to me.
I mean, I didn't care either.
Yeah.
I don't know, half a year ago or 7, 8 months ago. I had no idea what's the difference between the right wing and the left wing political point of view. So,
Yeah. So I asked him, so how do you identify yourself politically? Who are you going to vote for God's sake, if you don't know what do you want? Because it's a very important thing to, as I heard from also some conservatives in America, saying that you don't vote for people, you vote for a movement, you vote for the actual ideology. Because if you want it or not, the certain political party is going to assure to put their agenda into the practice, even if it's going to sound extremely good or we are not going to hear about it, because that's where actually the idea of populism came out. So, for example, a lot of people were concerned about electing Donald Trump, and they were saying that he is a populist, where it actually turned out that he maybe is. He is populist, but a lot of conservatives admitted it.
Yeah.
So I'm confident saying that. And my point is that conservative governments have done just what he had to, because Trump already gave the answer yes to every conservative things the government wanted to do. He lowered the taxes. Just he did the all good American stuff which he wanted.
I mean, just try to turn off sound when it comes to Trump, and he might not seem as that bad of a president, actually. Just try to
That's very true.
turn off the sound. Turn off the sound.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, because I didn't know where I wanted to go with this actually in this conversation, but what was the thing I talked about? For example, like 15. Or
We're talking about the role that the government plays
all right,
in the society, and
right, and then I came to this weird this weird idea of talking about how do people express politically, and how it's important to know for the people to express themselves. And I found it really concerning that my that particular family member, I asked him about the political views. Was raised during the communist regime here in Slovakia, so you clearly know that all of his beliefs are leaning to Russia, and all of his trust is leaning to the east, and you can really see that it really doesn't matter anymore, because not only Russia isn't uh, a superpower anymore, since two American states are already wealthier.
well, it's definitely no longer an economic superpower.
Okay. It's not
as the
economically
facts
superior.
suggest.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's not economically superior to the
No.
American.
No.
And I don't really see the reason why we should lean to the Russia, honestly, just because there are some authoritarian problems. And you heard the latest news about Alexei Navalny, who probably just by this day maybe starved to death. I don't really know. But
This is the cancel culture at its worst.
yeah,
At its worst, completely. You can see how terrible it can get on the left, with canceling and bringing down and silencing people, and silencing the truth, basically. Because what was Alexei Navalny doing? He was exposing the truth and the dirtiness behind Russian oligarchs and Russian politicians, and he was, as I guess Johnny Harris suggested, he was trying to bring down Putin's house of cards, that his
he
politics
almost did it.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that politicians like Alexei Navalny will succeed. Well, he wasn't technically a politician, but
he was.
He was expressing opposing political views to Putin's regime. I may call it regime.
Okay.
I don't really know how Russia is doing. I don't know. Do you see a lot of Russian people on the internet? I didn't somehow notice a big Russian influence on the internet, since so many people live there. I always see the American folks just talking about something or just posting out content, but I haven't seen lots of Russians.
Yeah, because I don't believe that Russia has that big of an impact on the Western society, or on the West, as some other Western countries obviously have. So, yeah, when it comes to politics, it's yeah.
Yeah. And there's also one interesting thing which I heard from my family member when I was talking about him about politics. And that was mainly I was pretty confused when he said it, but he said every political system should is able to succeed if the morally good people are on the top of it, and that isn't true, because we have
It does
to.
not make sense at all.
Yeah, because that we clearly know as kids that life isn't fair and people are naturally good. That's why we are learning such. That's why we are going to church. That's why we're reading the Bible. That's why our parents are giving us certain values and teaching us how to be polite, how to behave. There's all reason why we don't believe and why it is true that we are not naturally good. And when it comes to communism and these communist regimes, um, they believe that people are going to contribute to the society as Karl Marx suggested, and that all the people on the top are going to love everything and also share everything as everyone else. And it actually ended up with the system collapsing on itself just because of the false belief.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we should stick with this, what we have now, because it's only based around human success and pursuit of the individual, not around collective good, which may not even end up being real.
Collective good is something
Collective
we
good
should strive for. Like
economic collective shit, like communist.
Yeah, that is something different than collective good.
I'm really sorry about how I put it this, but I'm
it's okay.
really
yeah
it's
okay.
Yeah, I think we should get away from politics from now on.
Okay, so before we wrap it up, one positive thing. I want to hear one positive thing, whether it's some piece of good news or it's a message. I want something positive from you, then I'll try to say something positive, and then we will
positive thing
wrap it up.
What exactly?
Whether it's a piece of good news, something good that happened, or it's some sort of positive message that you want to give to people, something positive. Because we've been talking about a lot of negative things throughout this podcast, and it's important to speak our minds, and it's important to address these topics, but I don't want you to leave with this feeling that it's just bad and it's terrible.
I just don't want to make our audience tired of politics. But just to be clear,
one positive thing.
I fight for your freedom of speech, no matter what is your opinion. That's why I'm conservative. That's why I believe in the Bible, and that's why I cherish the Judeo-Christian values of the West.
Exactly.
So that's probably my thought at the end when it comes to the politics. I fight for your freedom just by supporting the West. And that's why I support West and most of its things. When it doesn't lean to left and start destroying itself.
Sure. Yeah.
So, Luis, what is your final thought on politics?
So my final thought on politics, and I will try to end this on a rather positive note, is that politics, or the politics that we choose to support, reflect our values. And that is very important to keep in mind, that the politics when speaking of a democracy, of a society in which the people decide who will govern, in which people decide who will represent their values, it's very important to keep in mind that truly politics matter in the sense that they represent the values you stand for. So I don't believe it shameful or it should be a taboo to speak about politics like this, because we're 15 years old. We're currently studying at high schools, and we're not like academically educated in this area, but we've been noticing that it is important. It is important to be aware of how politics work to some extent, to have some basic knowledge, to have this layout properly laid out, to see how things work, and to choose the best option. Because if we have good values, if we support good values, stand for good values in our everyday life, then also our political views, because politics are not like for ourselves, because under the term politics and policies usually apply to a certain group of people. Take for example, citizens of a state. So we have some values that we believe that are important and that are true, and that through good politics, through supporting good politics and political models that actually work, like conservative values, and this desire, this need for a good society built on Judeo-Christian values. That's why it's important to stay socially conservative, which means that you truly want our society to be conservative and to preserve the good values that will eventually be reflected in art, in our everyday life, Instagram post, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So,
Bro, I'm actually going to upload some of these things to my IG reels. Do you think that we will get cancelled by certain leftists when I upload this to a certain Vogue platform?
well,
I will do this.
Yeah.
I will express my opinion politically.
Okay, so please, if you're
Honestly.
watching this, please cancel us. We want to see the way you cancel us as
And
both.
then we will film a video about it and tell how dangerous you are just by doing it.
Yeah, we want to see that. So please don't forget to cancel us. You can find us on social media. My name is Luis J.C. You can find me on YouTube at Luis J.C.
And my name is Daniel, and you can find me obviously on Instagram. If you are watching this particular IG reel, my name is the alternative Daniel Bugoš. And yes, we really do want to see how you cancel us. Yeah, that will be very interesting. Just imagine the comments of the angry leftists on this IG reel.
So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If
we're ending already.
What?
We are ending already.
Yeah, I guess we should like wrap it up.
All right, so no, I would like to add some final thoughts actually.
Like on all of this.
All right,
So we're not ending yet. This is our first podcast, so bear with us, okay? This is our first podcast because we're learning how to end a podcast properly. So please don't be mad at us, okay?
We were learning already 3 hours how to start a podcast.
We're not editing this actually, so you will hear all of these bloopers. And
are we sure we're not going to edit?
No. It's going to we're just doing the basic edit to synchronize everything. But
all right, are we going to upload this on Spotify?
Could try, yeah. Have a podcast
on
YouTube, SoundCloud.
We'll create our own Instagram account, which will share our podcast. All right,
yeah, we can do that, or we can just like on our individual.
Oh my God, this will be controversial.
I don't care. I don't care. I want to see us canceled. Please do that. If you're leftist, if you're woke, just do that. I really want to see the way you cancel us. So.
Yeah, and if a certain family member is watching this and listening to my political views, which you disagree with, I'm very, very sorry. And I hope that you will like me just because I'm your blood. We have the same DNA. So
okay.
Yeah.
So,
I think that politics shouldn't actually divide us and just do some other things. Like we should came for more reasonable conclusion with all of our views. So I love you guys very much.
So your very final thoughts. Your very final
No,
thoughts.
these are not my favorite final thoughts.
But go with
one
your-
of my final thoughts.
Okay, but now your very final thought at the end of this first episode of the Luis and Daniel show.
Oh, all right. I have to think about this.
Take your time.
Ooh.
It's been a while.
Right. So, express your final thought, and then I will join at the end.
Okay, so I believe that we're winning the cultural war if we
As
don't.
conservatives, right?
What?
As a conservatives.
Yeah,
not
as
social
conservative,
justice warriors.
as conservatives, conservative creators, conservative peoples who want to preserve the good values in everyday life and in society as a whole. We're winning the cultural war, and don't be afraid to express and to show support to good values like bravery, courage, purity, honesty, truth, even health, because that seems nowadays on the left not that much regarded, fat phobia, that kind of stuff. But we'll get into that in another episode.
Yeah.
So don't forget to truly stay devoted to good values, faith in God, and faith in Jesus, our Savior, who has already given us this message that now is our responsibility to pass on other generations. So stand for good values and be a happy person. It's your moral obligation to be happy. That's my final thoughts.
Right. Very nice. Well, I was thinking about this for quite some time, and my final thought may be very, very pretty at the very end of our political discussion, and that is, don't let the internet to control your political views. Cherish what makes you a human being. Be human, be good, just like how your parents told you, just like how the Bible told you, and just like how our society. No. I'm going to cancel that at the end. I mean, this little thing. Yeah, we will cut that out.
The good part of our society. That's
the good
what you
part
want.
of our society. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to tell. But so far, I don't see that we live in such a bad way in the West. Just look what we're working with here. So I didn't even starve to death any day of my life. So I feel really good. So yeah, kids, don't let the internet spoil your natural political views, which you believe in. Because I want this to be told out there, the only thing which leaned me to the left was internet in 2020 when we were all in lockdown. I was naturally conservative, just how my parents told me and raised me, and just by how my grandparents raised me also. So yes, don't let internet completely distort your political views. So if you believe that something is completely true, and your parent, if you believe in certain things, don't let the internet and the cancel culture discourage you. Yeah, that is my final thought.
So, thanks once again for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're listening this on your favorite platforms, remember that gratitude is the key to happiness, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram as the alternative Daniel Bugoš. Follow Luis on Instagram as Don Lu Giovanni, and you already know our names, so you can check our YouTube channels either in our descriptions or in our bios, or basically, if you know our names, just search. So
on YouTube.
guys, I thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you are still here at the end, I want you to know that I completely love you and I want to marry you if you're a woman, of course. And yeah, thank you, love you guys, and I wish you a beautiful day or night, or I don't know which time are you listening to this exactly. So yeah, love and cherish the values which your parents taught you.
Amazing. Thanks. See you.